In this era of deep complexity,
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility.
beyond the edges of black or white,
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
it's time to be notionally accurate.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
Here are your hosts, Captain Kirk and some guy named Jason.
Welcome one and all to the 23rd episode of the Notionally Accurate podcast, produced live right here at the One Man's Burden Studios at my undisclosed compound, located in the volcanic rainforests of the Antarctic Peninsula. My name is Captain Kirk, and I'll be your affable host. There's grumbling about passing President Trump's big beautiful bill, packed with tax rate cuts, deregulation, and other economic agenda items. Of course, Congress is twiddling its thumbs, distracted by shiny objects. I'm concerned, though, that if the big beautiful bill passes, like with the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Congress will shut down until the midterms, just as it did when Rhino Paul Ryan was Speaker before he f***ed off to corporate ventures in 2019. The murder of Austin Metcalf, a white football player, by the unfortunately named Carmelo Anthony, allegedly, shows that the term hush crime is still relevant. Had the races been reversed, we would never hear the end of it. Even after Austin's father tried to de-escalate, Team Anthony claimed he didn't even respect the alleged murderer enough. To press a salted thumb in America's racial tensions, Team Anthony falsely claimed Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 black men in the back during the 2020 Kenosha riots. In reality, all of Rittenhouse's attackers were white. One, a convicted pedophile named Joseph Rosenbaum, didn't even intend to be in Kenosha. After a hospital release, he couldn't get his medication because the local stores were closed due to the riots. To top it off, Team Anthony allegedly bought cars and homes with fundraiser money meant for his legal defense. The war for America's borders continues. An illegal alien trucker, Ignacio Cruz Mendoza, whose steel rod load spilled on the Highway 285 in Conifer, Colorado in 2024, killed a father and husband named Scott Miller. It's no surprise, Cruz Mendoza has been deported 16 times before and is now back in Mexico after serving time in Colorado's prison system, per ICE. The collective meltdown over the Abrego Garcia case has escalated in recent days. Abrego Garcia, an illegal immigrant with apparent ties to MS-13, was slated for deportation to anywhere but El Salvador, yet was mistakenly sent there. No-name Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maryland, where Garcia is often called a Maryland man for sympathy, visited El Salvador's CICOT prison to meet Garcia and push for his release. Meanwhile, El Salvadorian President Bukele, while in the White House with President Trump, roasted a CNN reporter for asking about the case alongside the cabinet. It was Bondi, it was Rubio, it was Miller. They were all taking her to task. It was pretty fantastic. Documents later revealed Garcia's MS-13 membership and accusations of beating his wife. The White House responded by bringing in Patty Morin, whose daughter, Rachel, a mother and wife with 5 kids, was killed in Maryland by a recently convicted illegal immigrant, Victor Martinez. Van Hollen also voted against the Laken Riley Act. Go figure. I don't usually play audio this long, but this is too important not to hear. Patty Morin's words, especially at the end, say it all. This will take us into my discussion with some guy named Jason. Thank you for listening.
A lot of you don't know the whole story about Rachel and about the crime that was committed against her. Even us, her family, we didn't know all the details. They kept most of it close to their chest, the detectives, because they didn't want to do anything to hurt the case. They wanted to keep the integrity of the case, so they kept everything close. I sat for the last 2 weeks in her trial, and we saw layer upon layer upon layer of evidence against the accused, an illegal immigrant from El Salvador. And the things that we thought, well, maybe this might have happened, we didn't know. But when we were at the trial, we got all the puzzle pieces. And I want to share some of those things with you. You know that Rachel's a 37-year-old mother. She has 5 children. We've walked the trail for the last 25 years that we've lived in Maryland. It's a safe place for our family. It's where we go to get a little bit of New England, because that's where we're from, New England. When she went on that trail that day, she was not planning on dying. She wasn't planning on walking to her death. She was planning on going to the grocery store with her girls afterwards. Victor Martinez, he waited for her. He waited for her to come closer. He saw her. He saw that there was nobody around. He attacked her. He dragged her 150 feet, blood gushing from her head. It left a 150-foot trail of her blood to the culverts, where he picked her up, he threw her against the wall of the tunnel, and he raped her. But before he did that, he stopped on that trail, and rocks, still stained with her blood, he used them to hammer her head against those rocks. They say at least 20 times they could count the cuts in her head. They said that when they did the autopsy, and I've seen the pictures, there's a 6-inch square in the back of her head where the skull is shattered the way that you would crush an eggshell in pieces. 3/4 of her brain hemorrhaged. Her right and left side of her face bashed in. Her beautiful face bashed in. Her head bashed in. Broken bones, fractures. He takes and he drags her some more. He drags her through the thorn bushes. She has all the scrapes and cuts on her body. There wasn't 1 inch of her body that didn't have some kind of injury, whether it's bruising, broken bones, contusions, the scratches. She had a fractured rib, fractured nose, fractured skull. And then he takes her into the tunnel and he picks her up. He throws her against the wall. Blood is gushing from her head. Her hair is soaked in blood. And they showed us pictures of her body against the wall, outlined. The blood outlined her body. And you could see where the blood ran down around her as he was raping her. And then he threw her down and raped her some more. And then he strangled her because he didn't want her to be able to live to tell the story. They said that when they did the autopsy on her neck, that one of the things they do is they open up the neck and they look to see how far the injury is. And they went all the way down as far as an injury is possible, hemorrhaging in the muscles, because of how strong and violent the grip was around her. These are the kind of people that have no compulsion. Like, to them, this is nothing. And when he was sitting in the courtroom, he actually looked like he thought he was going to be set free. There was no remorse on his face at all. This person took my daughter so violently and so gruesomely and so graphically that they sealed the pictures, because I don't want my granddaughters to see these pictures. These are the kind of criminals President Trump wants to remove from our country. These are the kind of criminals that we need to remove from our country. We are American citizens. Why should we allow people like this, violent criminals that have no conscience at all, to murder our mothers, our sisters, our daughters? I don't understand why there's even any kind of problem with this. And it's not that it's political, like the left or the right, although I understand different parties have used it in the past. But we have to look at it as we are American citizens. We need to protect our families, our borders, our children. I don't care about politics. Well, I do, but I want to preserve life. And that's the only reason why I have taken and spoken about Rachel all this time. If you're a mother here in the room, can you imagine standing there alive? You're alive, and someone comes and puts their hands into your chest and rips out your heart? That's what it feels like. It feels like a part of you is being ripped out of you. You can't even describe the pain. Just like you can't describe to your husband what it feels like to carry a baby in your womb, or to feel those first kicks, or to know just intuitively if it's a boy or a girl. It's only a thing that a mother knows. Why are we not protecting the American citizens? It's just common sense. Why are we not protecting our children? And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to say that as a mother and as an American citizen, the president and our entire team, and I hope people in this room are grateful for your willingness to come here and your request to share your daughter's story. And I think the country hears you loud and clear. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Patty or for me? No?
I have a question.
No? Anybody? Okay. We'll see you all later. The president will be at his dinner later this evening. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Ms. Morin.
We really appreciate you. Thank you.
Please, I'm so sorry for
your loss.
Thank you. Please tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell how violent it really is. This is about protecting our children. It's more than just politics or votes or just anything. It's about national security, protecting Americans, protecting our children. Thank you. And thank you for listening.
So I know you had nothing but faith, knowing that Trump was playing 4D chess and the rest of the world was just playing checkers, Captain Kirk. But for me and myself, I was very relieved when he announced the 90-day suspension, the pause, as it were. You knew he was always going to do that?
No, I did not. However, this is a perfect example of the art of the deal. The bombastic proposal, watch how the other side reacts, pivot when necessary, take the win. As Scott Bessent, who we'll be talking about in a moment, told reporters, China is now surrounded because there are some 70 plus countries coming in begging for better trade deals. So if this is a great way to shake up the economy and put an America First agenda out, I don't really care if a couple of Wall Street traders lose a couple bucks in the stock market.
Well, isn't I mean, to a degree, Wall Street, the stock market, it is legalized gambling. Everyone just gets nervous, so they all just kind of push their money around. There's nothing really, I don't know, concrete about it. It's always going to be ebbing and flowing, and I don't know. It's just very odd. I think it's funny.
A lot of folks went from Occupy Wall Street to, oh no, my Wall Street, way too fast. And points out that a lot of the criticism, a lot of the desire to hold Wall Street to account was just hot air. So sometimes you have to shock them into compliance.
Well, that's something Trump definitely did. He shocked everybody into compliance. He brought the world to a halt. People were very nervous. I was very nervous that he was going to go through. I know you weren't very nervous because you had faith that he knew what he was doing, but it really looked like, and he really made it seem like, that this was not part of the plan, that somehow, some way, in the middle of the night, he changed his mind. So he didn't have this planned. He didn't know how it was going to go. He just kind of went with it, saw that his market buddies and his, friends were like, hey, we can't do this. And they were moaning. And what do you call it? Yipping or yipping or?
Yippee.
Yeah. So he changed because of them, that it wasn't part of the plan. But you're saying, from your facial expression, you're telling me that this was all part of the plan.
Better trade deals? Absolutely.
So bring it all to the brink.
Sometimes you have to push it to the limit.
So why then does he make it seem like he just changed his mind?
Let his haters get a little bit of schadenfreude.
Why?
Why not? Because, I mean, he spoke with Bill Maher. Bill handed him a list of insults that Trump had been levying against him over 20 plus years, and Trump signed the damn thing. He's not such a bad guy. He'll take those slings and arrows.
Well, he changed the world, and we'll see. As you were saying, I mean, the philosophy of, because there is still a camp in his cabinet that wants to keep up the tariffs, correct? That after these 90 days, they want to pick everything back up and kind of give the world the business again.
Exactly. Kind of like our infamous 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, and the most beloved presidents in American history. Donald Trump has a cabinet, a team of rivals, as Doris Kearns Goodwin's book alludes to. So he has Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro, Jameson Greer, all on the side of tariffs. And then he has Scott Bessent as the anti-tariff entrepreneur expert, and Kevin Hassett, who I think is more skeptical of tariffs, but is willing to push forward the president's agenda. I think those are the main factions in Trump's cabinet. And by the way, just because I have to mention it, Kevin Hassett, who is one of the lead economic advisors for Trump, went to Columbia.
No. Bum, bum, bum. Always Columbia, bro. Always.
I don't find these connections.
Columbia.
These connections find me.
So then this kind of goes a little against your theory, though, because if he has these people in his cabinet who are pro-tariff, then that was part of the plan. And him changing his mind at the last second and going the Bessent way wasn't part of the plan. Because you named off a bunch of people who were
Bessent had supported, but Bessent had supported the plan, and then he assisted the president in pivoting away from what the markets were afraid of. Which, by the way, I thought we weren't supposed to listen to the oligarchs and the millionaires and the billionaires on the Wall Street, the oligarchs. But yet we have to listen to Bessent, who's a billionaire. We have to listen to the Wall Street traders who were calling in, the Bill Ackmans of the world. crying and acting like panicans. Where's the consistency? All of a sudden now we have to be concerned with the millionaires and the billionaires.
Well, I'll tell you, consistency. You are consistently good at doing a good Bernie Sanders. Consistently.
Well, thank you.
Well, I guess whether he decided to do it, whether it was part of the plan or his mind changed, to a degree, it doesn't matter anymore. Trump does what Trump wants to do.
I think with you being a newbie to the Trump train, infamously voting for Gary Johnson in 2016 and Jill Jorgensen, Janel Hammerschmidt in 2020, if you're not familiar with The Art of the Deal, I actually have had that book on audiobook. And everything that he did in that book, he's doing as president. His deal making is impeccable.
Well, they were saying, so Peter Navarro is now saying he was doing the Sunday shows and he said 90 deals in 90 days. That pretty much the entire world has come to the United States to make a deal.
And could you imagine that happening under the former White House resident, Joe Biden? I don't think he could get one trade deal in 90 days.
No. Yeah, what are you talking about? I don't think he could spell the word trade deal in 90 days. What are you talking about? Getting a trade deal? He couldn't even get that's not even a thing. So if this was 4D chess and this was meant to realign America's standing or the United States standing in the world by single-handedly picking out each and every country to where we are dealing with each and every country again. The trade, let's come up with a new deal. And the second part of that was to isolate China. So we accomplished both of these things by bringing the world to an almost economic standstill.
I don't think that was necessarily the case. I don't think we were on the brink of
it could have been bad
economic meltdown. I don't think so.
No, I wouldn't say not economic meltdown, but it was going to change our lives significantly. It still could. All the prices being raised. Us trying to maybe, because if you keep riding this out with the tariffs, we as a society, because we couldn't necessarily produce it here and it might cost too much to bring it in, we might just have to go without. And I don't think our society has ever done that before. I don't know. I don't know what it could be. I don't know. It could be.
We've had shortages before.
Yeah.
In World War II, we sent so much margarine over to the Soviets under Lend-Lease. We had margarine shortages stateside. So it's happened before.
That's actually good. Margarine's horrible for you, by the way.
Take what you can get.
I think margarine was used to lubricate machinery. Don't eat margarine.
Fair enough.
No, but I was nervous. It made me nervous. Maybe it's not as dramatic as a economic collapse, but I really felt like it was going to change everything. And I also felt too, it was going to give a foothold, because I want Trump to be successful. I want Trump to do a good job. And if something goes wrong economically, it'll take the whole ship down. And so it makes me nervous for that too. But apparently he knows what he's doing.
To be fair, when the stock market crashed, I thought, oh my God, all those millions of dollars in stock that Jason has in the stock market just evaporated overnight. And I called you and I was like, dude, are you okay? I know this is terrible for your portfolio.
You get so touchy.
What did I
So
say?
touchy. You pick on Trump at
Am I
all.
wrong?
You doubt Trump at all, and the sarcasm of Captain Kirk shall rain down upon you. If you doubt our magnificent leader,
Stable genius.
that's stable, he's the most stable. People say.
People tell him that. Yeah, people
Well, they're
say
saying that. People say a deal a day for 90 days. So that is crazy. And if this does isolate China, because you said Navarro said he thinks that it's isolating China. Japan was
Besson
number
said
one to
that.
the table. Like apparently, Besson said that. I'm sorry. But Japan was like the first call when
Right.
when all of this hit the fan. Japan was like, all right, I was first. Like they did not waste time. We were negotiating stuff with Japan right now, and if we can, with South Korea and Japan and Australia, if we can isolate not only geographically but fiscally, if we could isolate China, that would be good.
Absolutely. And they're also looking at the most favored nation status that China has with the WTO that was shepherded through the U.S. Senate thanks to Joe Biden, almost as if there was some sort of benefit for both sides in that effort. They're looking to revoke that. Some folks are in the economic world and make it tougher for China to steal IP, intellectual property, manipulate their currency, undercut their economic competitors, us, and try and bring them to heel as best as possible, considering their relative strength.
Well, that's why all these move with China. That's why the Panama Canal is important. And that's why Greenland's talked about. Because I guess they're saying there's a lot of precious minerals or precious minerals on Greenland.
Rare earth minerals?
Like something rare earth, yeah. That not only is it good for physical defense purposes, Greenland, but it's got some hidden gems there in its Arctic shelf.
And thanks to climate change, more of those are accessible to the surface. So, I mean, who's going to get it? Is Denmark going to keep it forever? What happens if, Russia wants to take it? I think we essentially own it, but Denmark's in the way. So once Denmark accedes to our request, we'll be the proud owners of Greenland as new territory.
But I can see now why they're talking about it.
And then with Panama, Carter in the 70s gives up Panama for like $1 back to the Panamanians, even though we Americans were the ones that built it, thanks to Theodore Roosevelt. And then the Chinese communists come over in violation of the Monroe Doctrine and set up shop in either end of the canal. Thankfully, President Trump has efforted himself to rectifying that problem, and it looks like we have signed agreements to take back some ownership in some capacity of the canal.
And all of this is an effort to isolate China. So this is all 4D chess, 8D chess to isolate China.
The art of the deal. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I doubt you, but I don't. I mean, that's the way it leaned. He plays dumb well, though. Trump, where he's just like, yeah, I changed it. Yeah, I changed my mind. Yeah, what are you gonna do? No, I don't want to do it. Like, and that keeps people on the edge of their seats. It drives people crazy.
I love living in the golden age.
It does. But he passed his cognitive tests. his physical, cognitive tests. He passed it. This is the 5th time Trump has passed it. He said something to the effect of, I'm healthy physically, mentally, and I think he said spiritually, or my soul is healthy. And then he followed that up with very healthy. I have a very healthy soul.
How you know he's telling the truth when he adds that little emphasis.
Yeah. So obviously Biden, I don't think Biden ever took it. Did we establish that?
So I couldn't prove that he had taken a physical. So I'm going to hedge my bets and say no. In the book Fight that we had talked about last week, Alan and Parnes had talked about the George Stephanopoulos interview, where he said that he had taken a test, or a doctor had visited him after the June 2024 debate. Well, that contradicted something the first gay black immigrant press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre from Columbia, had mentioned maybe a day or two earlier, that no doctors visited the White House to check upon Biden. So I assume he saw some doctors some point in time in his presidency, but whether it took physicals or cognitive tests, I couldn't prove it.
It's been a while since you brought her up. I missed that.
The worst press secretary ever.
Aw, I know, but I kind of miss it now.
I miss the word salads and the binders, the nonsense.
Speaking of word salad, did we establish if Kamala Harris ever took one of these tests?
I could find no information confirming.
I don't think she did.
Yeah.
So this is the 5th one Trump has passed. Thank God. I think our elected officials should take these tests. And I'm talking about presidents. I'm talking about vice presidents. I'm talking about senators. I'm especially talking about congressmen. Congress people they're batshit crazy. We got our all kinds of crazy people in the house. They need cognitive tests, term limits, cognitive tests. Yeah, governors should take cognitive tests. State senators.
What about dog catchers?
No, I don't. No, what's that? We don't.
Are they exempt?
Yeah, no, you don't. I mean, you want them to be cognitive. I mean, maybe dog catchers. You do vote for them, don't you?
Yeah,
I vote for.
I think some are elected.
Yeah, dog catchers should. They should take cognitive tests. State senators, even though I don't really know what they do. What do they do?
I'd imagine they have the same function as federal senators.
Yeah. All right. Guys, I wonder if any state senator has filibustered for 25 hours.
I doubt it.
Yeah. You know why?
None of them are as cool as Cory Booker.
Because it's stupid.
Indeed.
But I guess my point is, it's very interesting and impressive that our commander-in-chief has taken 5 of these. I guess he said he didn't get anything wrong on all 5, which I don't understand how that works, but okay. I believe you. Yeah. So, way to go, Donald. Cognitive. And why don't you like Joe Rogan? What's with you not liking?
I didn't like Joe Rogan.
You, I have known you for decades now. It feels like
a decade and a half at least.
It goes year by year. It gets
Wow.
You've never liked Joe Rogan.
I don't like listening to the 3-hour talkathons now. Plus, that was also when he was saying that he wasn't going to interview Trump because he's a man-child.
Boy, you are real sensitive about that, huh? People criticize your boy. You do not like that at all.
I fully accepted Bill Maher visiting with Trump. I thought that was a great, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
yeah,
if I'm that sensitive, I also had no problem with Cenk Uygur of TYT talking with Turning Point USA when Charlie Kirk wheeled his fat ass out to thunderous applause. Everyone was melting down. I didn't give a shit. I would say I'm actually less sensitive than a lot of Trump supporters, because a lot of Trump supporters hate Lindsey Graham. He's a warmonger, but I don't have any hate for him. I love Marco Rubio, and he was the Trump had small hands guy from 2016. JD Vance said horrible things about Trump.
He did.
The hatchet.
He did.
So
yeah. Okay, I'm just saying. Take it easy. So, geez Louise, we're at a party, bro. Take it easy.
So I'm more thin-skinned about the thin skin accusation than I am about my support for Donald Trump.
All right, you're not thin-skinned.
I've been through the fire.
You're very sensitive about being not being sensitive. Wait. Yeah.
Huh?
Anyway.
So,
on the Joe Rogan podcast, he had renowned libertarian and comedian Dave Smith discuss, I guess, debate. It was a debate in a discussion with conservative author, I guess, thinker Douglas Murray. And Douglas Murray came off as such a pompous jerk. It was, I don't know. I know you didn't. I told you that all you had to do was listen to the first 5 minutes of the debate, and you would have a response to it. What was your response to it?
Oh, yeah. That first 5 minutes, it was insufferable. Douglas Murray sounded like he was putting not just Rogan and Smith through this, but also all past guests that couldn't even defend themselves that Rogan's had on that he was complaining about through a Maoist struggle session, which after Mao had taken over and the Communist Party embedded itself into Chinese culture, forced the kids of the parents that did not abide Marxism or Leninism to go through a struggle session. Essentially, the children berate, I don't know, physically, definitely verbally, and accost the parent of all their past sins of support for Chiang Kai-shek, for example. And that's exactly what Douglas Murray sounded like he was putting Smith and Rogan through, was a Maoist struggle session. He feels that Smith and Rogan had brought on people that unfairly criticized Israel, unfairly criticized Jews or Zionists or what have you.
Yeah.
And so he put them through the ringer.
Yeah, I'm not really saying about why. I mean, like, I'm saying, like, why do you think he used that strategy? Because now, and I never heard of the term until because of this, but woke right? I never heard of that before. And I mean, I've heard of it. I didn't really understand it. But listening to him debate, I was like, oh, this is the woke right. Where, how dare you? You can't talk about this because you don't know what you're talking about. Only certain people, the experts, should be talking about things. And I just find it odd because you're a comedian. It was very isolation. I don't know. It was, you wanted to punch him. And with his accent too, he was all English sounding. You know what I mean? Like, you could just see him like sipping a cup of tea with his finger in the air, and he just wanted to knock it out of his hand.
Very pompous.
Very pompous.
Made you want to start a second American Revolution just to get him out.
Throw his ass in the no, but he just came across so I don't know. It was, and I'm saying this, and the reason why this is interesting is now that the right is on the theoretical popular side of American culture right now. They won. There was a big culture win. Not only with that, there was an electoral win, but there's also kind of a cultural win too with this past election. And so now you have this. How does the party develop? And we've talked about this before. Trump put everything on its ear. He completely changed the Republican Party, and he damn near broke the Democratic Party. So now you have MAGA Republicans, and then you have more conservative Republicans that are not necessarily MAGA, but they're kind of Republican. You know, they're still Republicans. So the non-MAGA people, it's very important they don't fall into this woke rights ideology, I guess. I don't know. It was horrible. I didn't like it.
So because you're not terminally online like I am, you're less enmeshed in this quote unquote woke right discussion that's going on X between James Lindsay and his ilk. He's part of a group that created the grievance studies, most famously taking Hitler's Mein Kampf and turning it into a social justice warrior screed, just switching out certain language, and got that printed in a quote unquote peer review sociology journal. And so he does great work on cultural Marxism and topics relating to communism. He's kind of gone off the deep end. He is the main promoter of this woke right concept that some on the right are using woke ideology in their attempt to popularize, I guess you'd say, the ideas that they share. And Lindsay's argument is that those folks, whoever he considers woke right, which is pretty much everybody that disagrees with him, I'm not too into calling somebody woke right because I don't know if it even exists. I think it's just criticism of those who don't like the more squishy middle, small c conservatives. You'll see James Lindsay pretty much call anybody that comments in the contrary on his X account, woke right. Okay. The main point is that Douglas Murray, and I've had an audiobook, War on the West, from 2022. I listened to it. It was very interesting. I've seen him before on like Piers Morgan and elsewhere. He was just so insufferable. And he uses these logical fallacies, the appeal to authority, the appeal to experts, credential chasing. And that was just the first 5 minutes that I saw. Totally unbearable. And I can see, if it expands out to the full 3 hours, why people didn't take Douglas Murray too seriously if they didn't already agree with him.
Well, what's very interesting is his sort of defense. He really didn't defend it, but since the pandemic, the American public, we do not believe in the expert class. We don't believe in, we have a hard time believing in it. The expert class told us so many things that now looking back on it was they were lying to us. The media was lying to us by supplying the experts. And so like experts kind of now it's one of those things where you might be an expert in something, but who bought you? What is bought and paid for? And you could be an expert. That's great. But it's like a court. If you go on trial, they can bring 3 people that are experts to say that you're guilty. And then they can bring 3 people who are experts to say that you're not. Everyone's an expert. And I think it's our society now. It's the death of that. And I think it goes back to that politicians, this last campaign is going to be the first campaign where the internet took over. And in the future, candidates are going to have to do long form interviews.
Having read Fight by Allen and Parnes, the disaster in negotiation between the Harris campaign and Joe Rogan to do an appearance there, total shit show, absolute debacle. And then the campaign team goes on Pod Save America, which are a bunch of old Obama like speechwriters or advisors. and says there was no way for us to go to Austin in 107 days. We just couldn't make it happen. But there was a Senate race down there between Allred and Ted Cruz. You could have done an event with Allred and, snuck into Austin and done 2 hours, 3 hours.
Well, I think what the Harris campaign tried to do was apply the same pressure and the same rules that they've been putting on CBS, ABC, NBC for years. They try to do the same thing to Rogan, and you can't do that. He's not going to do what you want him to do because you have no control over him. There's no hand in any of his pockets to have him lean one way or the other. And I think it's hilarious that they can come up with any excuse to not go on the biggest podcast in the world. Whatever excuse you have to not go on that show is not enough. Well, we don't have time to go down there. You make time. You make time. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And we didn't have any time. I don't know. We were just so swamped doing what? Like, come on. Going on whatever the
View or something?
says, whatever. Yeah.
Call her
that
daddy.
was more important. Like, call her daddy. That was more important. And they also, too, and this is very interesting, they only wanted to make it 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
No.
That's not how he operates.
It's not how it is. Yeah. So this next election, I would say we might even see a lot of it in 2026. And maybe because it's a midterm election, it may not get to the heights of a Joe Rogan or a Theo Vaughn on the podcast because it's a midterm and it probably be. But I guarantee you, we'll see something. We'll see some senators, Congress people going on podcasts because the MSNBC route, the CNN route, I think they're all seeing that doesn't go the way that it used to.
And we see all these governors creating podcasts. And there's one thing I've told you many times over, we just don't have enough governors making podcasts. So thankfully they're filling that void. And I appreciate them. Gavin Newsom of California and Andy Bashir of Kentucky have their own podcast now. So soon Jared Polis will have his own, the Polis podcast. And DeSantis, why not just throw him on his own podcast? I know Ted Cruz, he's the Texas senator. He has his own podcast called Verdict, I think. I think he does that with Don Jr. every once in a while. So, yeah, everyone's getting into the podcast business. Well, they have to. That's what the future is. And what's going to be interesting, podcasts and what their message is. That's how they're going to meet. That's how the Democratic Party is going to have to morph. Because they don't control the corporate media anymore. I mean, they still do, but no one pays attention to it. There you go. Or do you want to fearmonger about Iran? Well, because I don't think the end of days, Iran's going to have a nuke any moment now. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, okay, we can have this conversation. I'm not saying that it's doomsday and, Iran, we're going to go to war with Iran. All I'm saying is Iran does not need to have a nuclear weapon in any way, shape, or form. No Christian, Jewish, Muslim state in the area wants Iran to have a nuclear weapon. They're not going to use their nuclear program for anything for their infrastructure. They're just going to use it for a bomb. And they're going to, and I think they're going to hit Israel first. So, saying that, but I don't think we're going to have boots on the ground in Iran. But I could see us letting having a long leash with Israel when it comes to Iran. That's my thought. So I'm not doomsday per se, but Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb. They can't have the capability. All right, Jason Doomsday. That's your new name. You're Jason
Whatever.
Doomsday. So the problem with Iran's nuke program is that it's deep into the mountains. So a simple airstrike like you'd see with Syria that Israel conducted, 10 years ago or so at this point, to knock out their nuke program. You won't see the same thing with Iran. So short of that, of providing them with bunker busters that can penetrate the concrete corridors, if it took land invasion, boots on the ground, to prevent Iran from receiving this phantom nuke that for the last 20 years, I've been told, Iran's right around the corner. They're about to get the nuke tomorrow. They're going to start World War III, and we need to strike at them now. That's particularly the neoconservative route, which our last topic, which was Murray v. Smith. Douglas Murray actually wrote a book called Neoconservatism, Why We Need It. So he is something of the more fringe right these days, more of the Bush era conservatism. With Iran, every day for the past 20 years, I would hear, oh, right around the corner, Iran's going to get its nukes. I'm wondering, are these like televised televangelist doomsday cultists where, oh, something bad's going to happen in 2023 and it passes and they're never held to account for another failed Chicken Little prediction?
But that is one of those things where I understand it's not scary until it is. And if they do get it, that's very scary. It's very, very scary.
What did Condi Rice say in the lead up to invading Iraq? We don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud. So we need to go after them. We need to invade immediately.
I'm not saying, okay, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we should invade. I'm not saying we should put boots on the ground.
But if it took boots on the ground in order to dismantle Iran's nuke program, would you be in favor of it?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would. I would, because the threat is so great of them having, if it came to fruition of them having the bomb, it is the fear. Oh, yeah. I think it would be.
Okay, I just had to draw that out from you.
I know. I don't know. I know you're going to put me in some sort of weird political, not weird political classification, but you're putting me in some sort of political classification that I don't even probably understand or know or agree with.
I just had to.
Great. That's the whole reason why we talked about this, is to make me, that's great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I haven't even sprung my greatest trap on you yet, though.
No, what? There's another one? Oh, with what? Which topic? Give me a hint.
It wouldn't be a trap if I told you my strategy.
No. Well, then, let's change
move
topic.
on to next topic.
Oh, man, you want me to move on to the next topic? Dang. All right, so we are both fans. I would say you're more of a fan of the Nuggets than I am. We're both Denver natives. We're both big Bronco fans. I am a big Broncos fan, but you are more of a Nuggets fan. But I root for the Nuggets. I mean, I think any red-blooded Coloradan with the right amount of altitude in their bloodstream roots for the Nuggets, you know. But they just did something very interesting. When do the playoffs start? The playoffs start in a week.
Yes, in less than a week from this recording, the playoffs will begin. It's a 5-month expedition into endurance and sweat, blood, and tears. The Nuggets fired their head coach, Mike Malone, and their GM, Calvin Booth, who delivered the 2023 NBA championship to Denver. And wouldn't you know it, a couple years later, they get the boot right before the playoffs.
And is that smart to do right before the play? I mean, that seems to, I don't know. I could see why they did it, but I could also see, like, you've been working on this thing all year. You're about to close it out. although it is a second season, they've always called the playoffs a second season. So maybe forget about what happened then, and this is now.
Yeah,
I
what
don't
have
know.
you done for us lately?
Yeah, it's very wow. Okay, it adds a whole new depth to the playoffs.
Some discussion I've heard is the top brass had already announced a leadership change would be taking place after the season. And the Nuggets were, I believe, at least at the time of the firing, in fourth place. So not at the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the conference. But the top brass didn't want Malone or Booth, whichever, to come together and right the ship, as it were, and get to the Western Conference Finals or even the NBA Finals and win a championship. And then because they had already announced a leadership change, are you going to fire a championship GM, a two-time winning championship GM at that? It'd make the peeling of the Band-Aid a lot more difficult.
So then you agree with this move?
Oh, it's going to be tough. I don't understand firing Malone, but if that's the logic that I just went through of the top brass, okay, I kind of get it. Hopefully they're able to search out a similar or better coach. Malone really did a great job in his 10 years. It helps to get somebody like Nikola Jokic, who's probably going to win another MVP of the league. It's going to be tough to replace Malone. I don't know who they're going to get for GM. I'm not sure who they're eyeballing at the moment, but these next couple months and years is going to be very interesting for that organization.
Are we set to play the Timberwolves in the playoffs?
God, I hope not.
Yeah.
They scare me.
Yeah, dude. That's hilarious.
Anyway, thanks for listening to episode 23 of Notionally Accurate. Thank you to some guy named Jason for joining me on this one. I'm your host, Captain Kirk. More to come on future episodes. Find this podcast on SoundCloud, Rumble, and YouTube. Follow the podcast on Twitter/X at NotionallyACC. That's NotionallyACC. Email me at notionallyaccurate@protonmail.com. That's notionallyaccurate@protonmail.com. Take care, and remember, even if you can't be factually correct, you can always be notionally accurate.